All right, let's talk about one of the most legendary and, yeah, controversial figures in all of finance, George Soros. But we're not just going to talk about the man himself. We're going to dive deep into the unique philosophy that fueled one of the single most audacious trades in history. It's a story about how one big idea can not only change the world, but make you $1 billion in the process.
So let's start with a number. A big number. $1 billion. That's what his fund supposedly raked in a single day, back in 1992. It's just a staggering figure, the kind of thing that sounds more like a legend than reality. So the question is, how on earth does that happen? Was it just dumb luck? Did he have some kind of inside track? Or was it something else entirely? I mean, think about it. This wasn't just picking a hot stock. This was a high-stakes bet against the full economic might of the United Kingdom. This trade was so huge, so world-shaking, that it earned him this incredible nickname. It totally cemented his reputation as this financial titan who could spot weaknesses in massive global systems that pretty much nobody else could see. But here's the kicker. This secret to his success wasn't buried in some complex financial model.
No, the answer is, well, it's a philosophy, a way of looking at the world that completely turns traditional economic theory on its head. It's an idea he worked on for decades, and it is the absolute key to understanding everything that comes next.
You know, while everyone else was glued to their spreadsheets, crunching earnings reports, Soros was thinking about something way more abstract: human error, and the messy, unpredictable way our beliefs crash into reality. He basically believed all the textbooks were just wrong about how markets really work. And this is the big idea, the secret sauce. It's called reflexivity. Now, the simple version is this. Markets aren't just these perfect mirrors reflecting the true value of stuff. No way. Instead, what we believe about the market actually changes the market itself. It's a two-way street. So here's how this feedback loop actually works. First, our beliefs. Let's say everyone gets super optimistic, drive prices up. That's step one. Then, step two, those higher prices can actually change the real world. A soaring stock price, for example, makes it way easier for a company to raise money and grow. And then, step three, that real-world change, it just feeds right back into the original belief, creating this self-fulfilling cycle, or, a bubble. And here's the huge takeaway from all this. If you believe in reflexivity, you don't think markets are rational or efficient. You think they're inherently unstable, always lurching between these wild booms and busts, all driven by these psychological feedback loops. And for a guy like Soros, that instability, well, that's not a problem. That's an opportunity. But you don't just come up with an idea this radical in a classroom. For Soros, it was something he learned firsthand, forged in the absolute chaos of 20th century Europe. Soros was born in Hungary, and as a teenager, he lived through the Nazi occupation. He saw his entire world just fall apart. After surviving that absolute nightmare, he eventually found his way to London. And that's where his lived experience was about to collide with some really big ideas. Just try to imagine that for a second. You're a kid, and you watch the society around you, the rules, the government, everything you thought was solid and permanent completely disintegrate. That kind of experience, it teaches you something you never, ever forget. Any system, no matter how stable it seems, can be incredibly fragile. So then he gets to the London School of Economics, and he runs into the work of this philosopher, Karl Popper. Popper's whole thing was that we can never have perfect knowledge, that our understanding of the world is always flawed. For Soros, it was like a light bulb went off. He connected Popper's philosophical ideas about human error to the unstable, chaotic markets he was starting to study. Okay, so he's got this powerful philosophy, but how do you actually trade a philosophy? Well, the answer is a style of investing that he basically helped invent. It's called global macro. It's really a totally different way of looking at the board. Most investors, right, they're using a microscope, zooming way in on one company's earnings or products. Soros, he was using a telescope. He zoomed way out to look at the whole system: interest rates, government policies, currency fights, the giant forces that can crush even the best-run companies. And this whole philosophy got its ultimate test run in 1992. Here's the setup. Britain had locked its currency, the pound, to Germany's super-strong currency. But Soros spotted the flaw. He saw this as a fundamentally broken system. The British economy just wasn't strong enough to keep up. He saw a bubble just waiting to pop. So what did he do? He made this insane $10 billion bet that the system would break. And the outcome? Bang! He was right. Britain had to give up, the pound crashed, and his fund walked away $1 billion richer.
But, and this is just as important as the big wins, Soros was obsessed with risk. He completely accepted that he was going to be wrong and probably wrong a lot. That core belief he had in human error, he applied it to himself more than anyone. So the name of the game wasn't always being right. It was making damn sure you didn't get wiped out when you were wrong. He was famous for cutting his losses fast and without getting emotional about it. So when you put it all together, what does it all mean? Well, his legacy is so much bigger than just one trade or his incredible fortune. It's really about a completely different way of thinking about how the world works. Later on, Soros took this same philosophy and applied it to philanthropy, creating the Open Society Foundations. His whole goal was to support the very things he felt were crucial for a healthy, adaptable society, things like democracy and human rights. It all ties back to his early life and those ideas from his mentor, Karl Popper. So what can we take away from all this? What are the big lessons? First, markets are just as much about psychology, about fear and greed, as they are about data. Second, being flexible is way more valuable than being certain you're right. And maybe the biggest one of all, managing your risk is more important than trying to predict the future. Admitting you messed up and doing it fast, that's a huge competitive advantage. And this quote from the man himself just nails it. You know, unlike so many other famous investors who have this one rigid style, Soros's only real style was being adaptable. His deepest conviction was that he could be wrong at any moment. And that very humility is what made him one of the most powerful investors on the planet. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. In a world that seems to reward being loud and certain about everything, is it possible that the real superpower in investing, and maybe in life, is just being able to say, I don't know?